Welcome. This is my first mini episode in my Sanskrit Taxonomy series. Mini episodes will basically be me talking about stuff that is slightly unrelated to taxonomy. In this video, instead of naming taxonomy clades, I'm going to be naming extinct animals. Let's get right into the video. First, I'm going to be touching upon the naming conventions I have developed. Basically, these Sanskrit words will help me in the future in coining Sanskrit names. Starting at the top of the list, we have Bhima, which invokes mighty, terrible, large, buff. And this is inspired from the existing Sanskrit neologism Bhima Vanara for gorilla. Next up is Bhuri, which like Bhima invoke mighty, large, etc. However, this is used in secondary to Bhima, meaning Bhima is more terrible, more mighty, and Bhuri is the second most mighty and the second most terrible. Next we have Ghora, meaning ferocious or terrible, and this is used for dinosaurs. Well, this is used for dinosaurs like T-Rex, Allosaurus, Spinosaurus, and this is just to save the syllable count. Next, we have Mahattama, which means the largest or the greatest, and it refers to the largest species of a given taxa. And lastly, we have Makara, which in Hindu lore refers to a legendary aquatic creature that's like a chimera of a crocodile, a fish, an elephant, and maybe a deer. However, typically in Sanskrit and in modern Indian languages, Makara is used to denote a crocodile, just a regular crocodile. Though it may have originally also meant a Ganges river dolphin, which aren't dolphins by the way. In regards to coining Sanskrit words for extinct animals, Makara will be used to denote any ferocious sea creature. So basically an ecomorph. With that, check out the names that I've coined for some extinct animals. First up is the mammoth. Yes, as in Manny from Ice Age. Because it's a mighty elephant, I have chose to translate it as Bhima Gaja. Like its distant cousin, the mammoth, the mastodon is also a mighty elephant, but it's actually smaller than the mammoth. As such, we're going to call it Bhuri Gaja. Next up is the Gomphothere, a very distant relative of the elephant. It's famed for having 4 tusks, and that's exactly where I got the Sanskrit name for it, Chatur Damshtrin. Chatur means 4, and Damshtrin means having tusks, so it's literally having 4 tusks. Next up is the Paraceratherium, which is one of the largest mammals to have ever walked the earth. And this is actually a relative of the rhinoceros. And thus, because it's the largest relative of the rhinoceros, we're going to be calling it Mahattama Ganda, where Ganda means rhinoceros, but I'm going to be expanding it to rhinoceroses and their relatives. Now the word Khadga or Khadgarmaga I'll be using to refer exclusively to the individuals in the family Rhinoceratidae, of which the mighty Paraceratherium is not a part of. Because most members of the rhinoceratoid superfamily don't have horns. And Ganda is the only Sanskrit word for rhinoceros that I know of whose etymology has nothing related to the rhinoceros's horn. Next up is a very, very distant relative of the rhinoceros, the Toxodon. The name Toxodon means bow tooth as its front teeth are curved like a bow, and that shall be the basis of its Sanskrit name, but slightly different. Toxodon in Sanskrit would be Vakrapura Dantin, meaning curved front teeth or having curved front teeth. Next up is a Glyptodon, which is a very large species of armadillo. If you watch the Ice Age movie, it's that creature that tries to breathe out of a straw and ends up getting eaten. Now, because it's a mighty armadillo, that's what I'm going to call it, Bhima Varmika. The thing, armadillos are not native to India or even to Asia. They're native to the Americas. That means I had to create a name for them. And the name I chose is Varmika, which means armored one. It specifically refers to male armor, as in not one big solid armor, but in several units. Another word we can use is Kirkinchu, which I borrowed from Quechua, Kirkinchu, meaning armadillo. And sometimes you'll notice that I'll try to borrow from indigenous languages instead of making a Sanskrit word directly for that animal, just to honor the indigenous people of the area that the animal lives. Next up, we have Megatherium, which is a type of ground sloth. Megatherium may have been one of the largest sloths to have ever lived. As such, I have translated it as Mahattama Alasajivin. Sloths are found in South America, not India, so I had to make a word for it. I've called it Alasajivin, meaning lazy life form. And this is kind of inspired from a Telugu word coined for this animal, Alasakoti, which means lazy monkey, even though sloths aren't monkeys. But the lazy part is accurate. In fact, in many languages, the word for sloth is basically a word meaning lazy. In Spanish, it's perezoso, which is the word for lazy. In fact, in English, the word sloth itself means a lazy person. If you're wondering, sloths are very slow because their diet is poor in energy and they have slow metabolisms to conserve that energy, and as such, their movements end up becoming slow. Now moving on to our last extinct animal in our list, the Gigantopithecus, the largest primate to have ever lived. Yes, this is basically what King Louie is in the most recent remake of The Jungle Book, Disney's remake of The Jungle Book. Because it's the largest primate to have ever lived, we're going to call this Mahatma Kapi. And that concludes the video. If you noticed, most of these extinct animals are mammals. In the future, I might be naming extinct animals that are reptiles or birds or fish, etc. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. If I've made any mistakes, please correct me. With that, thank you for watching.